Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for February 1st to February 7th of 2015. And on February 1st, we have the sun, and you can see it denoted right here by the black circle with a dot in it. It's in Aquarius. It's in the 19th hexagram, and on the outside of the wheel, we see the chop mark for the 19, numbered from bottom to top. The 19 goes yang, yang, yin, 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 yin. And then the 19th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here we have the 19th gate of wanting approach, that all things are interrelated, is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. Located in the root center in a tribal energy path in the ego circuit called the channel of synthesis, a design of being sensitive that connects with the 49th gate of principles, revolution, ideally transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person, that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on February 1st. We've got the sun in the 19th gate with the earth in the 33rd gate. And the north node is in the 48th gate with the south node in the 21st gate. Mercury is retrograde also in the 19th gate. Venus is in the 55th gate with Mars in the 63rd gate. Jupiter is retrograde in the 7th gate. Saturn is in the 34th gate. Uranus is also in the 21st gate. Neptune is in the 37th gate, and Pluto is in the 38th gate. And obviously, not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com and click the button that says Get Your Free Rave Chart, and then enter in your birth information. So the neutrino forecast is just a weather report, and no matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru Hu said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as you can see, we begin the week with no channel definitions due to the transit field. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi-Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. If your strategy and authority does not lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On February 1st, we start with the sun in the 5th line of the 19th hexagram, and the sun in the 19.5 is described as sacrifice, the need to limit personal potential in order to achieve a target goal. Exalted, the self-restraint fundamental to such a nature, the energy to keep one's sensitivities restrained. Detrimented, a tendency to sacrifice, a tendency in sacrifice to condescend. Sacrifice which can fuel a lack of sensitivity. And the 5th line day is the day, it's the heretical line, where there's projection on people, and universalization, suspicion, paranoia, and seduction are all 5th line themes. And then later on the 1st, the sun moves into the 6th line of the 19th hexagram. So up on the roof of the hexagram in the role model line, with the shift happening at 7:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 19.6 is the recluse, the avoidance of contact in general, but not exclusively. Exalted, the fool on the hill. The sage, if you can find him, will talk to you. The energy which generally fuels avoidance. Detrimented, the sulking child, the self-imposed exile that will only end when it attracts an appropriate and soothing reaction. Oversensitivity to rejection, which fuels avoidance. And 6 line days It's like being on the roof of the house. We're not quite aware of what's going on in our immediate environment. We're more looking at what else is going on, what's coming up next. And so there's certain dangers of things banging into you, or just not seeing things coming, whether it's a bill or a car, because we're just not really aware of what's going on in our immediate environment. Also on the 1st, retrograde Mercury moves from the 19, leaving the Sun in that gate, and backs into the 41st hexagram and gate. And so Mercury in mythology is the messenger of the gods. So this is communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music, according to Ra. And what do you need to communicate in life? We communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated with Mercury in the 41? Well, perhaps the pressure to experience new emotional beginnings. This is the gate of contraction, decrease, the limitation of resources, which maximizes development of potential. And retrograde Mercury backs into the 6th line of the 41. And Mercury in the 41.6 is contagion, the law that maximization of potential not only ends decrease, but inevitably such a transcendence benefits others. Exalted, the maximization of potential of form, the father whose success will benefit his children, the fuel for recognition through feelings. Detrimented, the tendency in transcendence to keep it a secret in fear of being deprived of its special advantages, the fuel for secret or repressed feelings. Also on the 1st, Venus moves from the 55th gate in the hexagram and joins Neptune in the 37. And in human design, Venus is very powerful, deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you on a moral level. Your design and personality, Venus, tell us of the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life, and that if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in this retribution. And Venus is in the 37th gate of friendship, the family, the manifestation macro and microcosmically of the organic nature of communities. Venus is exalted in the 1st line of the 37, and since Neptune is also in the 37.1, it is also exalted as well, and will be until Venus leaves the 37 on February 5th. And this is the mother, the father, a position of inherent respect that ensures a focus for development of guidelines. Exalted harmony is the key to successful maintenance of relationships. It is only through harmony that the beauty and values of the family can endure. Friendship that is rooted in sensitivity and ensures harmony. And then on the 2nd, the Sun moves from the 19 and into the 13, and the Earth moves from the 33 and joins Jupiter in the 7. So this is the 7 is the gate of the role of the self, the army, the point of convergence by design, the need for leadership to guide and order society. And the shift happens at 5:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the Sun in the 13th gate of the listener, the fellowship of man, universal ideas and values in an ordered framework which inspires humanistic cooperation. And the Sun is in the 1st line of the 13, which is empathy, the ability to relate and commune with equanimity, exalted harmony through affection, a role in openness in listening to others with affection. Detrimented, the politician kissing babies, an openness that is never free of motives. And so now the Sun is in a new hexagram. We're in the lower trigram, 1st, 2nd, 3rd lines. which are lines where people look more inward. They're more absorbed in their own process. The theme of the first line is fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. So it's a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't know, don't understand, or can't make sense of. And as we continue into the Rave New Year, this shift of the sun into the 13 and the earth into the 7 brings us into the cross of the Sphinx, which is all about direction. The 13 is the second stage of the Rave New Year. With the 13th gate, it's collective. It's a role gate. It's about our role with the other. This is the fellowship of man, which is about empathy. The 13th gate is open. It takes things in. It collects information. This is the collector of secrets. It collects and learns from the experiences and interactions with others. This is all about paying attention to who is interacting with us. Who can we learn from? And with the sun and with the earth in the 7, who can we learn from that is going to enrich the role that you're going to play in the process as we move into the new year? And Ross spoke about one of the most important things to remember about starting a cycle is remembering that it's important to be open. And it's important to take things in from others, because in that it may be the very things that you need that are going to fulfill the possibilities of this cycle coming up. And also on the 2nd, Mars moves from the 63 and into the 22nd hexagram. In gate. So Mars is in the gate of openness, grace, the quality of behavior best suited in handling mundane and trivial situations. Mars is detrimented in the first line of the 22, which is second class ticket. Detrimented the inevitable humiliation that comes from claiming a first-class seat with a second-class ticket, where the emotional energy challenges the awareness and can result in humiliation socially. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource which lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. Mars represents the warrior archetype in mythology, and by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. And then on the 3rd, the sun moves into the 2nd line, from the investigative line into the hermit line of the 13. And this shift happens at 3:44 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 13-2 is described as bigotry, the risk always present that fellowship can only exist for a particular type, whether it's racial, religious, national, or intellectual, detrimented the obsessive belief that the highest ideals cannot be embraced by the lowest forms, an extremely difficult position where the highest ideas provide the rationalization of hatred, a role of openness so narrow that there's practically no one worth listening to. And this is actually one of the things that I really find sad, that I've seen in some of the human design communities, is that there are individuals who are using their knowledge of the system to tear other people down under the guise of promoting the knowledge. In my opinion, all they're promoting is conditioning. So anyway, 2nd line energy for the 13. Second line, people are waiting for something. They're waiting to be called. They're waiting to be called because of natural talents. People are stuck in their own trip. And so it's not a great day to have a party, because people really don't want to leave their homes under that 2nd line influence. And then on the 4th, The sun moves into the third line of the 13, which occurs at 1:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the sun in the martyr line, the third line of the 13, is pessimism, the belief that what is best can never be achieved, exalted, a lack of trust that can only be transformed through concrete evidence, openness that is conditioned by suspicion and seeks evidence, detrimented, pessimism, exalted into an art form, whereas art, it may have the opposite effect, satire, where rightness of suspicion may inspire satire. And so in the line of the martyr, we're talking bonds made and broken, trial and error process, system of discovery by realizing what doesn't work. This is when things can bump into us. So we need to be careful on the roads, be careful of swinging doors, swinging elbows. We might have bonds made and broken. It's about a trial and error process. It's a good material day, might be a good day for business or work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong, but ultimately those things are there to lead us to discovery. And then on the 5th, the sun moves into the fourth line of the 13th hexagram at 12:07 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is just 7 minutes after midnight Eastern Standard Time, where the sun in the 13:4 is described as fatigue. The point of exhaustion eventually reached when one is too tired to fight, exalted, the renaissance that comes with truce and its eventual reinvigoration, openness which leads to exhaustion and the need for silence, detrimented emotional exhaustion, appeasement and withdrawal, a role where openness is a vulnerability. In fourth line days, we're changing from the lower trigram of the personal process into the upper trigram, which is more transpersonal. And so with the fourth line shift into this line of the opportunist, we're moving from an inward perspective to looking more outward with the themes of friendship, companionship, networking. It's great for social interactions, for networking, for being friendly, for being social. But then later on the 5th, the sun moves into the 5th line, the heretical line of the 13th hexagram. And this happens at 10:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the sun in the 13:5 being described as the savior, the ability to overcome all obstacles for the betterment of humanity, exalted, the charismatic genius who can find a role for everyone, the listener who has a gift for finding a role for others, detrimented, the able administrator, given the extreme positive nature of this position, mundane application is rare. The listener whose gift is for finding a role of others is practical and suited for administration. And fifth line days, again, we're talking about the heretic. This is about projection. The projection is they could do it. They'd be great at it. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, for whatever reason, the expectation isn't met, it goes from, it turns a negative. There's punishment associated with it. So in talking about the fifth line, we're talking about universalization, suspicion. It's things where there's in universalization where something goes viral, whether it's a Facebook post or a YouTube video or something like that. Paranoia is also considered to be a theme of the fifth line day, but as I've said before, with all the projection, it really is only paranoia if they're not out to get you, and often with the projection theme, they are, and seduction also being another fifth line theme. Also on the 5th, Venus moves from the 37 and up into the 63. course, it's leaving Neptune behind in the 37. And in human design, we talked about Venus earlier as being very powerful and deeply misunderstood, being about morality and values and law, that we deal with the others and the consequences of the world around us. So we've got Venus, it's in the 63rd gate of doubt. After completion, in the spiral of life, all endings are beginnings. And Venus is in the first line of the 63, which is composure, exalted, the quality of personality where achievement is accepted with equanimity, where continued development is allowed to take its natural course. Acceptance of achievement, but doubt whether continued development will take place. Detrimented the tendency in achievement to immediately seek new goals at the risk of destabilizing what has already been accomplished. The pressure in achievement to still doubt one's capabilities and to immediately seek new goals. And then on the 6th, we have the sun moving into the 6th line of the 13th hexagram. So on the roof of the hexagram at 8:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the sun in the 13.6 is the optimist, the ability to accept any limited interaction as a necessary step towards a greater union. Exalted, the energy to persevere, unlimited hope, the hope that openness will lead to better relationships. Detrimented, naivete, the translation of mutual interest into universality, the belief that mutual interest may be projected on others. And 6 line days, again, we're on the roof of the hexagram and the role model line, not to get stuck with your head in the clouds because you'll end up with something that bangs into your kneecaps, where there's a lack of focus of what's going on around you, and because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like I said before, like a 3rd line day, the dangers of not seeing things coming, whether it's a car coming or a bill coming, things of that nature. And then on the 7th, the sun moves from the 13th hexagram and into the 49. And with that, the Earth moves out of the 7 and up into the 4, which brings the definition of a head center. And of course, we can't have a head center without an ajna center. We've got the Earth. It's in the gate of formalization, youthful folly, the energy to beguile and succeed despite ignorance, freedom from retribution. This shift happens at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the sun in the 49th gate of principles, ideally the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. Revolution. The sun is detrimented in the 49.1, the law of necessity. Revolution has no support unless it's perceived as necessary. Detrimented, the misuse of influence to insist that necessity can be created out of action. The helter-skelter syndrome, to commit acts of disorder as proof that disorder exists. Oversensitivity to rejection that can turn a principle into a crusade. And again, we're now in a new hexagram, 1st, 2nd, 3rd lines, lower trigram, being more inward perspective, more personal in influence, with the 1st line day being about fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. So again, studying, not acting, looking into things, not jumping. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand or can't make sense of or simply don't know. And again, as we're continuing into the Reagan New Year, the shift of the sun into the 49th gate is about resources. And as you might remember from last week, when the sun entered into the 19th gate, this is the stream of need. The 49 makes people very uncomfortable because it can make people very uncomfortable because it's a solar plexus gate. It's emotional. It carries fear. And fear is a tremendous motivator in the not self world. It brings up the fear of not having enough resources, the fear of nature, the fear of God. This brings the need to control animals, particularly mammals. Ross said this is about not fooling yourself in terms of what's possible for you and what, in fact, you truly need. So what do you need? Do you know what you need to have a foundation for moving through the coming year? This will be part of the process, and we'll see it in others around us. All over the world, there are problems with resources, and the sun in the 49 it brings even more focus on resources. It's also the gate of revolution, which brings the call for we don't have enough and we need more across the planet. You follow your strategy and authority to see clearly what you need, to see clearly what is possible, and let go and watch and follow the flow. And then with the Earth in the 4th gate and Venus in the 63, we have the channel of logic until the 10th, which is about mental ease mixed with doubt. And none of us is designed to make decisions based on our minds. This is the channel that brings mental gifts that should be used in service to others rather than trying to understand our own lives. When your strategy and authority presents you with someone who needs your clarity or inspiration, this transit can support the process. This is scientific thinking through being skeptical and questioning whether the logic or patterns are valid. It brings mental pressure to people without the defined head center, which in turn can bring doubt. When trying to analyze your own life. The definition is future oriented through looking at mental patterns and projecting them into what lies ahead. This can bring worry as any answers revealed by this process will need to be tested and proved to determine if they have practical applications. And the best use for this definition is for research purposes and testing of hypotheses. And then recognizing that the results need to be invited before they are shared. So, no matter what the energies are that are conditioning you during the week, remember this is an experience about being a passenger, riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. Enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We're all giving the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. Just take some time to observe your play, to watch your movie, as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on February 8th of 2015. Should be available on the 7th, when we will continue to look at the influences of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. And you can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube, because there's New World Birth presences in each of those places. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. And we're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And you can email me again at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you'd like to know how to make a donation to New World Birth. And as always, I am blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. In Lakesh. And as Ra would say, love yourself. Anyways, great gratitude for your awareness of what we're putting out here and to this video. And look forward to connecting with you in a reading or a future video or over a question if you choose to email me. Anyway, all my best to everybody.